Hello, everybody. My name is Reggie. I am a registered mental health counselor intern in the state of Florida, and I'm going to be going through the 2014 ACA Code of Ethics, Section G. So last time I went through sections D, E, and F, and it was longer than I anticipated. So today's video, I'm just going to be going through Section G alone, because last video was way longer than I anticipated and did not want to edit. I don't want to edit this video that long. So without further ado, let's get into the 2014 ACA Code of Ethics Section G, Research and Publication. Introduction. Counselors who conduct research are encouraged to contribute to the knowledge base of the profession and promote a clearer understanding of the conditions that led to a healthy and more just society. Counselors support the efforts of researchers by participating fully and willingly whenever possible. Counselors minimize bias and respect diversity in designing and implementing research. G.1 Research Responsibilities. G.1.A Conducting Research. Counselors plan, design, conduct, and report research in a manner that is consistent with pertinent ethical principles, federal and state laws, host institutional regulations, and scientific standards governing research. G.1.B Confidentiality in Research. Counselors are responsible for understanding and adhering to state, federal, agency, or institutional policies or applicable guidelines regarding confidentiality in their research practices. G.1.C Independent Researchers. When counselors conduct independent research and do not have access to an institutional review board, they are bound to the same ethical principles and federal and state laws pertaining to the review of their plan, design, conduct, and reporting of research. G.1.D Deviation from standard practice. Counselors seek consultation and observe stringent safeguards to protect the rights of research participants when research indicates that a deviation from standard or acceptable practices may be necessary. G.1.E Precautions to avoid injury. Counselors who conduct research are responsible for their participants' welfare throughout the research process and should take reasonable precautions to avoid causing emotional, physical, or social harm to participants. G.1.F Principal Researcher Responsibility. The ultimate responsibility for ethical research practice lies with the principal researcher. All others involved in the research activities share ethical obligations and responsibilities for their own actions. G.2 Rights of Research Participants. G.2.A Informed Consent in Research. Individuals have the right to decline requests to become research participants. In seeking consent, counselors use language that 1. Accurately explains the purpose and procedures to be followed. 2. Identifies any procedures that are experimental or relatively untried. 3. Describes any attendant discomforts, risks, and potential power differentials between researchers and participants. 4. Describes any benefits or changes in individuals or organizations that might reasonably be expected. 5. Discloses appropriate alternative procedures that would be advantageous for participants. 6. Offers to answer any inquiries concerning the procedures. 7. Describes any limitations on confidentiality. 8. Describes the format of potential target audiences for the dissemination of research findings. And 9. Instruct participants that they are free to withdraw their consent and discontinue participation in the project at any time without penalty. G.2.B Student/supervisee participation. Researchers who involve students or supervisees in research make clear to them that the decision regarding participation in research activities does not affect their academic standing or supervisory relationship. Students or supervisees who choose not to participate in research are provided with an appropriate alternative to fulfill their academic or clinical requirements. G.2.C Client participation. Counselors conducting research involving clients make clear in the informed consent process that clients are free to choose whether to participate in research activities. Counselors take necessary precautions to protect clients from adverse consequences of declining or withdrawing from participation. G.2.d. Confidentiality of information. Information obtained about research participants during the course of research is confidential. Procedures are implemented to protect confidentiality. G.2.e. Persons not capable of giving informed consent. When a research participant is not capable of giving informed consent, counselors provide an appropriate explanation to obtain agreement for participation from and the appropriate consent of legal authorized person. An example of this would be somebody who has dementia. G.2.f. Commitment to participants. Counselors take reasonable measures to honor all commitments to research participants. G.2.g. Explanations after data collection. After data are collected, counselors provide participants with full clarification of the nature of the study to remove any misconceptions participants might have regarding the research. Where scientific or human values justify delaying or withholding information, counselors take reasonable measures to avoid causing harm. G.2.h. Informing sponsors. Counselors inform sponsors, institutions, and publication channels regarding research procedures and outcomes. Counselors ensure that appropriate bodies and authorities are given pertinent information and acknowledgement. G.2.I. Research records custodian. As appropriate, researchers prepare and disseminate to an identified colleague or records custodian a plan for the transfer of research data in the case of their incapacitation, retirement, or death. G.3. Managing and maintaining boundaries. G.3.a. Extending researcher-participant boundaries. Researchers consider the risks and benefits of extending current research relationships beyond conventional parameters. When a non-research interaction between the researcher and the research participant may be potentially beneficial, the researcher must document prior to the interaction, when feasible, the rationale for such an interaction, the potential benefit and anticipated consequences for the research participant. Such interactions should be initiated with appropriate consent of the research participant. Where unintentional harm occurs to the research participant, the researcher must show evidence of an attempt to remedy such harm. G.3.b. Relationships with research participants. Sexual or romantic counselor-research participant interactions or relationships with current research participants are prohibited. This prohibition applies to both in-person and electronic interactions or relationships. G.3.c. Sexual harassment and research participants. Researchers do not condone or subject research participants to sexual harassment. G.4. Reporting results. G.4.a. Accurate results. Counselors plan, conduct, and report research accurately. Counselors do not engage in misleading or fraudulent research, distort data, misrepresent data, or deliberately bias their results. They describe the extent to which results are applicable for diverse populations. G.4.b. Obligation to report unfavorable results. Counselors report the results of any research or of professional value. Results that reflect unfavorably on institutions, programs, services, prevailing opinions, or vested interests are not withheld. G.4.c. Reporting errors. If counselors discover significant errors in their published research, they take reasonable steps to correct such errors in a correction erratum or through other appropriate publication means. G.4.d. Identity of participants. Counselors who supply data, aid in the research of another person, report research results, or make original data available take due care to disguise the identity of respective participants in the absence of specific authorization from the participants to do otherwise. In situations where participants self-identify their involvement in research studies, researchers take active steps to ensure that data are adapted/changed to protect the identity and welfare of all parties, and that discussion of results do not cause harm to participants. G.4.E. Replication studies. Counselors are obligated to make available sufficient original research information to qualified professionals who may wish to replicate or extend the study. G.5. Publications and presentations. G.5.A. Use of case examples. The use of participants, clients, students, or supervisees' information for the purpose of case examples in a presentation or publication is permissible only when A. Participants, clients, students, or supervisees have reviewed the material and agreed to its presentation or publication, or B. The information has been sufficiently modified to obscure identity. G.5.B. Plagiarism. Counselors do not plagiarize, that is, they do not present another person's work as their own. G.5.C. Acknowledging previous work. In publications and presentations, counselors acknowledge and give recognition to previous work on the topic by others or self. G.5.D. Contributors. Counselors give credit through joint authorship, acknowledgement, footnote statements, or other appropriate means to those who have contributed significantly to research or concept development in accordance with such contributions. The principal contributor is listed first, and minor technical or professional contributions are acknowledged in notes or introductory statements. G.5.E. Agreement of contributors. Counselors who conduct joint research with colleagues or students/supervisors establish agreements in advance regarding allocation of tasks, publication credit, and types of acknowledgement that will be received. G.5.F. Student research. Manuscripts or professional presentations in any medium that are substantially based on a student's course papers, projects, dissertations, or theses are used only when the student's permission and list the student as lead author. G.5.G. Duplicate submissions. Counselors submit manuscripts for consideration to only one journal at a time. Manuscripts that are published in whole or in substantial part in one journal or published work are not submitted for publication to another publisher without acknowledgement and permission from the original publisher. And last but not least, G.5.H. Professional review. Counselors who review material submitted for publication, research, or other scholarly purposes respect the confidentiality and proprietary rights of those who submitted it. Counselors make publication decisions based on valid and defensible standards. Counselors review article submissions in a timely manner and based on their scope and competency in research methodologies. Counselors who serve as reviewers at the request of editors or publishers make every effort to only review materials that are within the scope of competency and avoid personal biases. So this was a short one. I don't want to go on to part H because, again, I don't want to be reading that long or editing that long. So I will see you in the next video for section H of the 2014 ACA Code of Ethics. And if you are soon to be taking your National Clinical Mental Health Counseling exam, good luck to you, and I will see you in the next video. Ta-ta.